We're joined on the phone line now by Stephen Portnoy, ABC News correspondent who's in the Oklahoma City area right now covering this for ABC News. So Stephen, I mean, this death count thing, it came down from 51 to 24. That's really, really good news. Do we understand what happened there and why it was wrong?
Well, Brian, good morning to you. And first of all, I apologize. I'm speaking to you over a satellite, so if there's a little bit of a delay in our back and forth, off the top, I apologize. But to answer your question about the death toll, I think part of the problem was early on we were taking numbers from official sources, like, for example, the Oklahoma City Medical Examiner, who was collecting reports of information and giving it out as actual fact. Reports that 51 bodies had been found, reports that up to 90 bodies might be recovered, when in fact only 24 had. And that was the mistake. Perhaps also because we were taking the word from the Oklahoma City Medical Examiner. We're not in Oklahoma City. We're not even in Oklahoma County. But that was an official source of information, and we were reporting it as best we could because it was the only official word we had. But in the end, it was the City of Moore officials who were running this search, keeping the information, and telling us today there are 24 bodies recovered. And as the search is nearly done, there's little to believe that there'll be any more bodies recovered. So if the death toll is, I hate to say, only 24, including 9 children, if it's only 24, that wouldn't even put this on the list of top 10 of the most deadly tornadoes in history in this country.
Well, that is good news. I mean, tragic still, but better news than we thought. And why do we think that the death toll is relatively low for an F5, an EF5 tornado that destroyed some 2,400 homes? You would expect it to be higher. Is it because they got a lot of warning in this particular case?
Well, I wonder it's probably 2 or 3 things. One is the fact that there was warning, there was the threat of tornadoes in the area for several days, and the fact that was widely known. 2 could be the fact that this town, this very neighborhood, had been through this before 14 years ago, a far more deadly circumstance. The enhanced Regina scale had not been put in place, so you can't make a direct comparison to what was then an F5 to now an EF5, but anyway, the top of the scale. And in that circumstance, 36 people lost their lives. Here it looks like 24 people. Maybe some people knew that they had to take additional precautions. Just knowing what had happened here in 1999, precautions that they didn't take then, they did take now. That's just one thought.
Stephen Portnoy from ABC News joins us. And Stephen, they're in Moore, Oklahoma. I'm guessing, obviously, the mood is somber. But as they continue the cleanup process, are people still frightened? Is there danger because of power lines and because of unsure footing? All of the dangers that go along with all of the destruction.
Larry, I'll tell you, I was a little surprised to see here in this neighborhood that's completely decimated, that has shards everywhere, that this neighborhood's actually been reopened to residents, and reporters are able to broadcast from here. There are obviously police officers on every corner making sure that, for crowd control, making sure that there's no looting going on. We heard a report that 2 people were arrested for looting yesterday, but on the whole, people are being very gentle with people's property and coming back and gathering their own belongings. I imagine that while it is unsafe still, there was the risk of gas line ruptures and all that. I guess it's been mitigated to such a point where they feel it's just safe enough for people to come back.
Wow. And we talked about this being an EF5 tornado. Can you extrapolate on that a little bit? I know that that's the top of the scale. And I heard reports that I guess they calculated the energy released by this 40-minute tornado, and they compared it to something like 600 times the power of the Hiroshima bomb. How is that possible? And I know you're not a meteorologist, Steve. I'm sorry.
Right. Here's what I'll tell you. I'll tell you that the way Sam Champion, our weatherman in New York, has put it to me is that an EF5 tornado would take a car and not just move it, a few parking spaces away, but basically throw it like a block away.
Wow.
It would level a building. Winds in excess of 200 miles an hour, up to 210 miles an hour. Pretty much the most ferocious force in nature. Hurricanes don't nearly have wind speeds that high. So you can't imagine the kind of damage that wind will do to any standing structure. Trees are ripped bare. They look just like eerie stumps, with no limbs. It is incredible to see, but to think about the fact that so many people lived through it and survived is remarkable.
All right, quick question. Are people getting what they need? Is the response from FEMA adequate so far? Are you hearing any people who are saying, the one thing we need is, but we can't get it? I mean, obviously they need their power back. They need normalcy in their life. But, I mean, are there things that they need urgently?
I asked Governor Fallon yesterday that very question. What can people do, for example, in the Washington area to help? And she said, well, people could certainly use some financial contributions. If there's a charity that would do well to help the people here with food or clothing, that's welcome. But she also said that they'll take prayers anytime.
Yeah, that's great. Stephen Portnoy from ABC News on the job in Oklahoma. Greatly appreciated.